How do you correctly scale axes for graphing functions? Imagine trying to compare two different pictures, but one is stretched out and the other is squished. It would be hard to see the real differences, right? That's what happens if you don't scale your axes properly when graphing functions. Proper scaling makes your graph clear and accurate. First, decide which variable goes on the horizontal line, called the x-axis, and which goes on the vertical line, called the y-axis. Usually, the x-axis shows the input or independent variable, and the y-axis shows the output or dependent variable. Next, look at your data or the function's behavior to find the smallest and largest values for each axis. For example, if your function's y-values range from 10 to 50, set the y-axis to start a little below 10 and go a little above 50. This way, all the important parts of the graph fit nicely. Choose intervals for tick marks that are easy to read. If your data ranges from 0 to 20, intervals of 2 or 5 work well. Avoid tiny steps like 0.1 because they clutter the graph, or large steps like 10, which hide details. The goal is to make the graph simple but detailed enough to see the shape of the function. When drawing by hand, adjust your scale so the graph fills most of the space on your paper without crowding. If your paper has 40 lines for the x-axis, pick a scale so the function's range fits within those lines. This makes your graph look neat and easy to interpret. Label both axes clearly with the variable names and units. For example, write time in seconds or distance in meters. Clear labels help anyone reading your graph understand what they are looking at. Sometimes, you need to zoom in or out to show key features like peaks or valleys. If the function shifts vertically, change the y-axis scale to include that shift. This helps you see important details without distortion. If you want to compare shapes or distances, use equal scaling on both axes. But if the ranges are very different, different scales can make the graph clearer. For example, if x values go from 0 to 10 and y values from 0 to 100, different scales help avoid squishing the graph. Avoid starting both axes at 0 if it makes the graph hard to read. For example, if all y values are between 75 and 80, starting at 0 makes the points look squished together. Instead, start the y-axis near 75 to spread out the data points. Finally, check your graph for clarity. Make sure the scale shows the function's behavior well and that no important details are missing. A well-scaled graph helps you and others understand the function easily. By following these steps, you'll create graphs that are accurate, easy to read, and helpful for understanding math functions. This makes homework easier, saves time, and builds a strong math foundation for your studies.